Hello, aspirants. Welcome to PW OnlyIAS. I'm here, Harpreet Singh, with the daily analysis of the Hindu from 2nd of December 2024. So, hence come the month of December, and so along with it, we're going to enter after a month to the new year. So, we should again continue with the spirit and the same vigor that we have been continuing throughout the year. Along with it, as we see that the year changes, we should all resolve towards working even harder towards a goal. So, let's begin with that spirit, the daily analysis of the Hindu. Let's see. So this is a Telegram account where you can basically find this particular PDF along with the other material that is required for your preparation. So what all we have taken for today's analysis, please have a look. Over here, we have the topic of female labor force participation and policy, non-communicable disease burden, tourism boost, along with the GS papers with the relevance, BRO, that is Border Road Organization, Mahakumbh, dark web, and Bhopal gas strategy 40 years. So these are all topics we have taken for today's analysis. Let's begin with today's analysis. The main topics. So let's see. Topic number one. Topic number one talks about Center working on national policy document on the female labor force participation. Now please understand, when we hear about the topic labor force participation, it is, please, one thing is that from a very layman's perspective, it will appear to be that we female who are trying to participate in the job, clear, right? But from a aspect of economy also, we need to have a very clear-cut understanding what these terms basically mean. Before we understand this perspective, and we'll analyze the various dimensions also, let us see or understand a few definitions over here. These are a few definitions that have been taken from the Government of India's economic survey itself. And let us see what these definitions basically mean. And these should be known by you, especially for your prelims as well as your mains examination, before we understand the topic. Okay, the first is labor force participation rate. Labor force participation is defined as a percentage of persons in labor force working or seeking or available for work in the population. Now, these three things, all those who are working, seeking work, or available for work, these three things can be asked in your prelims examination as well, that which among the following are included in the labor force participation. So we can say, simple words, the percentage of persons in the labor force working or seeking or are available for work comes under this term of labor force participation rate. Now this word itself is not very, very clear because it includes such a wide umbrella of things, working also, seeking also, available for work also. That is why we have some other words that are important. See over here, worker population ratio, WPR. WPR is defined as a percentage of employed persons in the population, because we know in the labor force participation it is not only working but also seeking on those available for work. That does not give you a correct picture of all those who are working. Now, labor workers population ratio basically represents those who are employed and those who are actually working. So that means this is a better aspect when you need to understand all those people who are working, whether it is whole male and female combined or individually as male or female. Unemployment rate is defined as a percentage of person unemployed among the persons in the labor force. Now you see this. Over here, many are working, seeking and available for work. Many might not be working. Workers' population ratio is percentages who are employed. And unemployment rate is a percentage of the persons who are unemployed among the labor force. Right? Next is current weekly status, CWS. Again, economic survey, and obviously the government of India very frequently uses this. The activity status determined on the basis of the reference period for the last 7 days preceding the date of survey is known as a current weekly status. So before the survey starts, 7 days prior to that, what was the your status of work? That is basically noted over here. The most important things over here are these three. You should be very clear what the labor force participation rate is, what is worker population ratio is, along with it the unemployment rate. These are certain things you should be very clear. Now comes the thing. If you see the labor force participation rate for the urban areas, this is again a report from the Government of India, which is telling that the labor force participation rate is increasing, right? From here, 20.4%, to then again we see from in January, March 22 to January, March 24. We see it has increased. This curve is showing an increase. So that is a positive thing that we see from the perspective of the labor force participation. But still, if you realize, it is merely 25.6%. Very low. Now, though it has increased. Now, if you see another figure, there are certain dimensions or statistics which I've mentioned over here. These are from the Government of India's report that has been presented. Now, please understand, these become very important from the perspective of your prelims as well as the mains examination. We'll analyze these things also. Let's see. First thing was the definitions. Second is we are seeing, okay, it is increasing. Third is the statistics. If you see, unemployment rate in the urban areas decreased from 6.9% to 6.7% during January, March 23 to 24, right? So that means unemployment rate has decreased, though only 0.1%. But again, if we see from the perspective of finance and statistics, it is a positive thing. Female unemployment rate decreased from 9.2% to 8.5% from 2023 to 2024. Again, a positive thing. That means from the women perspective, the improvement has been better. Labor force participation rate in urban areas is showing an increasing trend. That means from 48.5% to 50.2% from 23-24. This is again completely for male and female combined. If you see, the female labor force participation rate in urban areas has increased from 22.7 to 25.7% from 23 to 24, showing a basically an overall increasing trend of the labor force participation rate. Now, increasing trend in the workers population ratio. Now, this is again very, very important, because we know that if we want to study the people who are actually employed working, here the workers population ratio is a better indicator, because we know in the labor force participation rate, it is those who are working, who are seeking, or who are available for work. That doesn't reflect a proper image of those who are employed. That is why if we see in the workers population ratio also, this is combined male and female, above age of 15 years, we see an increasing trend from 45.2% to 46.9%. Slight increase, but again a positive thing. From the perspective of the female also, please understand, female workers population ratio in the urban areas have risen from 20.6 to 23.4. An improvement that is better than the combined improvement. That means the combined workers population ratio. So that means a major increase from the perspective of the women is basically driving the labor force participation rate increase also, and the workers population ratio also. So overall what we see, unemployment rate decreasing, labor force participation rate increasing, workers population ratio increasing. Now these are the important things, but we need to understand something. In spite of all these things, we realize that still the participation is very low. I'll tell you one more thing. Like, let's see. If you see the current aspect from the aspect, women in India contribute merely 18% to the GDP, being 50%, approximately 50% in population. Now, if you see that we talk about labor force participation rate increasing, but you realize it is still dismally poor with respect to the overall scenario in the world, where the labor force participation rate is very high. And that is why we are seeing that the central government is basically preparing a document how basically we can increase the participation of the women through various schemes, through various programs. We have various employment programs. We have Manrega, we have other schemes, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, in that when the construction work is being done over there also women are basically involved in working. So some form of jobs can be provided. A lot of schemes are there. But again, what happens is that at ground reality, are they gaining benefit? Yes, they are. But to an extent, to what extent? Not too much. That what basically happens is that basically tries to exclude them from the economic aspect. If we over here see that women are working in the rural regions, but from a monetary aspect, they do not earn more. From the aspect of the urban regions where women are working, again, if you see, women are working there, not completely, many are working, but over there the monetary benefits that they receive is much more than that they receive in the rural regions. So what we need to analyze is why the labor force participation rate is low in India. Let's see a few aspects regarding that. What are the problems or the reasons, if you see that? See, let us analyze. If we want to understand this, first thing can be the aspect of patriarchy. See, patriarchy basically refrains the people from letting the women work also, because that will contradict the philosophy of patriarchy. Patriarchy means domination of the man. Domination of man is basically established from the aspect that man will exclude the women from the working scenario or contribution to economy. That is how that will create dependence of the women on the man. If the woman starts working, that will basically contradict the structure of patriarchy. That is why in the very rigid patriarchal families, you will find women not contributing to the economy, or let us say not contributing to an extent which we expect based on their qualification probably. So patriarchy over here is one of the major reasons that we see. Okay. Next, if you talk about the aspect second, skill. Let us put education first. See, we talk about literacy in India. We talk about literacy being close to 73, 74%, when women literacy being close to 67, 68%. See, being literate does not mean that you are educated. Literacy simply means a person, any person who is above the age of 7 is able to read, write, and understand any language is a literate. Now, when it comes to the aspect of education, whichever company you go, particularly in India, if you talk about, you see that your educational metrics, your school degree, school passing certificates, your graduation, post-graduation, these are required. When we talk about India, you will be realizing that a survey that was carried and reported in the Indian Express also stated that when a survey was carried out, but predominantly in the rural regions, 66% of the women reported that they had never got any type of school education, in contradiction to 32% of the male. Now, can you imagine if they are not being getting educated, it will basically result in what? Not getting any work also, job properly. They might be working in small informal jobs, but again, that is not very remuneratory also. That is again, third thing which we realize is the skill sets also. Skill set over here means if you realize that if you talk about STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, the contribution of women is very low in that. Very minimal number of women are there who are working there. They're earning very well also in multinational companies. Otherwise, if you'll be realizing that the number contribution to women to these sectors is very low. If you talk about agriculture also, we need to understand that women contribution of women in the agriculture is limited to those where the field size is small, or marginal farmers where they possibly they cannot afford any labor, so the family itself is working, or in the allied sector like horticulture, or let us say certain tree garden plantation regions, or let us say in the Kerala regions where you have spiced being produced, various spices being produced, or the rubber plantation being done, whether the women might be contributing. But if you see the areas of Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, the rich farmer zone region, you will see the minimal contribution of women over there. So if we see over there, skill set again becomes very important. Next is with respect to rural urban divide. See, if you talk about rural urban divide, this basically comes with a lot of aspects, because it is not merely a difference in the infrastructure, it is also comes with the aspect of opportunities. That is why I say, leaving the other things apart, opportunities that is provided by this urban region and rural region is very different. If you are in a rural region, possibly, remember, the work possibility for a woman can be, let us say, agriculture, small, if not the large fields, because we know larger field regions are more patriarchal in nature with respect to agriculture. So if we assume that the women over there let us say, have options of little bit of agriculture, let us say small other jobs, let us say teaching, or small availability of jobs are there in rural regions because there is limitations. On the other hand, if you see the urban regions, the number of opportunities there are huge, but the contradictory aspect is that opportunities are more in the urban region and less in the rural region. But if you see the population, urban region has merely 32%, rural has 68%. So automatically that will also impact the work contribution that the women make, right? Next is the aspect of security. See, we very well know, being in a patriarchal society, that women rapes, molestation are very common, not only in the urban region but also in the rural region. So because of that, very often it is seen that women might be restricted from moving out of the houses, let us say during the evening time. They might be told that you need to return home at this particular time, let us say 8 or 7 p.m. And then what happens generally is that various jobs, today's world, again, if you're working in the corporate, you have to stay in the corporate for late, let us say till 10 p.m., 11 p.m. also. It's very common. That is also one of the reasons which might be refraining the parents from letting the children work, particularly the females. Along with it, in the rural regions also, you'll be realizing that the families who have that patriarchal nature, along with it have a concern for the security of the child, might not let the child go to the urban regions and work. That is why also security also leads to decrease in the labor force participation rate. Again, a very, very important dimension. Next, now please understand, there were recent incidents of women dying because of the excess or toxic work culture that was there in ENY, along with few instances with respect to corporate bankings have come up, which basically showing this stressful nature that is basically leading to a lot of depression cases, stress related dimensions coming up. What is going on because of that is many people have perceived or developed a notion that corporate work culture is actually toxic in nature. It is not necessarily toxic in nature. Some companies might be. Work culture and the stress related to that has also led to various females quitting the work in their MNCs because they were not able to manage their personal life along with the life of their personal lives and along with the corporate life. So work culture, again, toxic. That also leads to a lot of stress, and that also might lead to people quitting. And very often it has been seen that women have been quitting. Personal experience also, I know many people who have quit work, corporate cultures, and then they're possibly doing something at home, working one or the other way, but leaving the jobs because of the toxicity. Next one other is aspect of family life plus parenthood. This is one of the major reasons where you realize that because of the parenthood, getting pregnant and taking care of the children, that basically leads to women basically leaving their work also. And this is one of the major reasons also. So when we've come across these reasons that why labor force participation rate again is low in India. Again, there are various scenarios. If you realize that these can be evolving, perception is changing as the urbanization rate increases, things will change. Better security, again, things will change. Work culture, again, government is also regulating it. Family and life, again, we realize that is basically depends upon how the family manages it. So again, it depends upon family to family, but these are one of the few reasons which are basically leading to lower workforce participation also. Yeah. Okay. Next, topic 2, India cities and their non-communicable disease burden. Please have a look over here. This is an important article that was basically presented over here. Just have a look here. Now, Over here, when we see this is topic 2, this basically talks about the rising burden of the non-communicable diseases in India. See, when we talk about diseases, we know we generally come across in our mind that, okay, some typhoid, jaundice, those communicable diseases might have happened. But what we talk about is non-communicable diseases, something that is characterized mainly by the lifestyle issues that we come across. This is basically was a worrisome issue in the Western world. But in today's time, India is facing double problem. First, on one hand, if you see, on one hand, India's health problem is, see, on one hand, India is facing aspect of poverty plus malnourishment. We very well know, example, we very well know that 52% of children in India are malnourished. Right? Lacking macro and micronutrients. Right? On the other hand, there is a problem with respect, especially with respect to India, we're talking about. There's a problem of non-communicable diseases that are rising, NCD. These are basically again associated with lifestyle issues, right? If you see, even if you realize that cancers, diabetes, issues of, let us say, obesity. Now, obesity again is a major issue because if a person is overweight, there's a greater probability of that person suffering from, let us say, diabetes also in future, cholesterol issues also, heart attack also. So if you realize that various cardiovascular diseases, respiratory disorders, diabetes, all those things are rising. Now, this was something that was closely associated with the aspect of Western societies. Now, India, on the other hand, we're transitioning towards, let us say, newer economy because people with the income rise, we realize that the higher class and the aspiring middle class is transitioning towards that higher income bracket. So what is going on? They are basically moving and suffering from these things also. So this is a double problem that India is facing. On one hand, a large chunk basically suffering from poverty and malnourishment related issues, where micro and micronutrients are a major problem. Over here, we realize that rise of non-communicable diseases is going on. Another study that came up, very problematic, is that if we see this non-communicable disease, urban regions are known for unhealthy lifestyle because of what they eat, the environment concerns. But with the rural regions, which is aspiring also, where the incomes are rising rapidly, we realize there is an increase in the rural regions also. This is a point of concern because in rural regions, which you talk about, are generally often associated with what we known as sattvic food. That means simple eating, or let us say unadulterated food, let us say lack of junk food. But what is going on? Because of the rising income in the rural regions, now people are basically adopting the urban lifestyle, especially with respect to food and the junk food that is there. So we realize non-communicable diseases are increasing even in the rural regions for that matter. So this is also a major point of concern. Let us see a few things. Now there was an article, it might not be clearly visible. Let me put it in simple words. If you realize, according to this particular article, I'll write it here, non-communicable diseases, that is NCD, if you see the proportion as mentioned in this particular report from the Government of India, 1990, the proportion of total diseases, non-communicable diseases had a contribution of 37.9%. Right? Now, understand, in 2016, according to this report, it rose to 61.8%. Can you imagine the contribution to the major diseases? The non-communicable diseases have increased so much. Now you'll be saying, sir, how come? Please understand, simple words. If you are staying in Delhi, what your expected lifespan would have been, it has already decreased by 10 to 12 years because of the pollution. Now, pollution has got to do with, again, with a major contribution of the lifestyle also. If you see the total breakup, according to the IIT Kanpur report, 50% is contributed by the vehicular pollution. 30% is contributed through the various, let us say, construction related activities and some industries that are working there. Then if you have out of this 80% is done, 10% through parali burning, or which we burn livestock, the residues of the crops that we burn, and along with it other dimensions. So the larger increase in the cars in the uh, urban environment is also reflecting a lifestyle dimension. So we can see automatically the related issues are also contributing to the non-communicable disease rise. So this is again a major issue that has been reported by the government of India. Now, if you see the proportion, this is a report with respect to women in particular. According to government of India, if you see the proportion of the diseases which was or problems which were occurring among the women, these are the non-communicable disease 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Cancer and percentage. Cardiovascular diseases were 2.9% among women in 1990, which rose to 6.6% in 2016. Chronic respiratory disorders 2.7 in 1990, 4.4 in 2016. Diabetes 0.7% in 1990 to 2.2 in 2016. Cancer breast, which is one of the major problems which women face, 1990 0.7% to 0.9% in 2016. Now this has further escalated if you see in the present scenario, particularly with respect to COVID and the problems that have come along with it. Now the question will come, what are the reasons for the rise in these problems that are there? Why non-communicable diseases are rising? See, first thing is food. If you see, there is a rise in the junk food. If you talk about junk food, the problem is it has excess salt, excess sugar, and obviously the taste enhancers. Now, these taste enhancers have been very often found to be toxic in nature. These again are various dimensions which basically cripple your health from inside. These are also the reasons why which you realize that obesity related dimensions also rise. Now, if you see, this is these excess junk food and all, what are they contributing to? A lot of obesity automatically. Second, sedentary lifestyle. What do you mean by sedentary lifestyle? It means there is lack of exercise or movement. If you realize that in earlier times, you realize that people who were in the primary sector used to work in the field, excessive sweating used to happen. That is why, please remember, when they used to use a lot of butter also in their food, and that was required because the amount of work they were doing, it basically got compensated with the amount of exercise they were doing on the field and other means. On the other hand, if you realize in today's world, if you're eating a similar amount of butter and you're sitting continuously on one chair, automatically you're going to face issues. Blockages are going to be there in your heart. Also, along with it, various cholesterol issues will come. Sedentary lifestyle is a representation of the modern work culture. Modern work culture. The MNC culture basically requires you to be in front of your laptops, be in front of your tables, just virtual meetings are going on. Your brain is being utilized, it is fine. But you remember that if your body is not fine, your brain will also not work well. A healthy mind resides in the healthy body. That is why you realize that when this does not happen, it will lead to issues of a lot of stress, anxiety, and depression. Next. Non-communicable disease, please remember that if today's, there was a survey that was carried out, let us make that survey clear. According to the Times, according to Times Network survey, 74% Indians have mental health disorder. Some, not mental health disorder, some form of mental health issues. To be more precise, mental health issues. Now, do you realize this? There are many people among the rural regions also who have, it is not to be denied. But the large contributory over here is also the people from the urban regions also. Now, please understand that because of the sedentary lifestyle, the food related issues, you realize if supposingly if you are in a stress like condition because of today's work culture and all, you'll be realizing that you might be in one place and you try to isolate yourself from the other people. Once you start isolating, you'll be in your room eating more, eating more. Along with it, you realize that you will be developing a lot of other issues or complications that are there. See, it is very easy said than done that when you have some mental health issues, you try to isolate. This is something opposite of what is required. When you feel that you are not well mentally because of some anxiety, depression like feeling, talk to people, talk to friends, talk to the people who can trust. Escalation of these things are basically going to lead to hypertension. Obviously it is there. Along with it, the food aspects, your exercises are going to absolutely go down. You're not going to work out also, and you will gulp more food, and what will happen is ultimately leading to a severe case of cardiovascular diseases also. Again, these things will happen. Now, next is pollution. See, according to the Down to Earth magazine, case of Delhi was reported. Delhi NCR. They've already said that in their magazine also, very famous magazine Down to Earth, which basically talks about that already people living in Delhi NCR have decreased their lifespan by 10 to 12 years because of the pollution. One of the reasons for the pollution is also the rise in cancer. If you take the air quality index, AQI, it has 8 parameters. Among that 8 parameters, one is lead also. Lead, along with the other particulate matter, 2.5 and 10, are also contributory to the cancer that happens in women, or not only women, for that matter, men also. And one of the major contributory to, in escalated form, even to lung-related problems and cancer. So, cancer cases. So this is again marked by urban regions, right? Where do you find these? Where do you find these? Major pollution which we are talking about here is in the urban region, right? So this is again a problematic issue, right? So these are some of the things that you basically talk about that create a lot of problems. Now, if you talk about when you had talked about food, please remember one thing should be kept in mind that food doesn't make only junk food. In India, the problem that we face is adulteration of food also, and use of unhealthy oil also, even in the rural regions. We did talk about urban, but remember, when I'm talking about rise in mortality in respect to cancer related issues and obesity among the rural people also, it is because in the shops over there, when they're frying certain dishes and all, they're also using oil which is very old, which again is very toxic in nature. Right? So that also creates a lot of problems over here. So let us see the other dimensions. See, having talked about food, talking about sedentary lifestyle, rise of the stress and mental health issues, pollution, relationship and life issues are again a major problem over here. According to the John Hopkins Institute, When they carried out the study with respect to the United States region, they came out with a conclusion that they stated that in situations where when you see the transition in the demography is taking place towards urban environment, people are technology is intervening, we realize that people are in more contact with respect to whether virtual world, because you are easy availability of people is there. That is why you have dating sites like these Tinder, Bumble, Hinge and all. We realize that one-to-one person might not be interacting, but we have these availability of people. So what happens is that these relationship related issues, breakups, divorces, all these things also contributed to a lot of problems with respect to your mental health, your, let us say, toxicity in the nature, leading to a sedentary lifestyle, and also contributing to a lot of problems related to, let us say, suicides also. Now, these things do contribute to your health, particularly the mental health. Again, leading to what the food you eat, and again, sedentary lifestyle. Again, the problem arises. So there are various reasons for that. Along with it, you might be having various other reasons uh, when we talk about here. If we see over here, see, when we are talking about this article, now please understand, when we are talking about these, you'll be realizing that this particular article talks about that cities are pockets and layers where non-communicable diseases are continuously rising. If we see what has been basically presented over here is that they talk about workplace, they talks about social isolation in spite of being in such a crowded place. Urban areas or the cities are characterized by high population density. If you go to, let us say, Arunachal Pradesh, 17 persons per square kilometer. But if you go to Delhi, 11,500 persons per square kilometer is a population density. But the one-to-one contact that you see is much more less, you'll be realizing, in the urban, because everybody's self-centered there. So over here, when we realize that, we see that issues of, let us say, distancing and all those things that we have mentioned over here, again, is presented. Now, one more thing that is very categorically coming is MNCs and their marketing gimmicks. One more reason: misinformation and marketing gimmicks. Misinformation and marketing gimmicks. Market. How you do it. Please understand. Various people said that the concept of vapes were introduced by various corporates in order to counter the, let us say, is better way in order to leave cigarettes, right? Now, vapes further created other addictions that were there. That even created a lot of stress related, because it was later found that consumption or using of vapes on a regular basis leads to various other multiple disorders in the body. You realize this. So what are we doing is, we see this, we saw that sugar free food that is there, right? We have those small uh, boxes that we have sugar free. Do you realize that those sugar free things, that those tablets that we have, are carcinogenic in nature? What are these? Misinformation and the marketing gimmick that have been done by the corporates, and we immediately consume them or use them without any proper survey being done, without the government also even intervening, without testing them. We realize that the problems over there. First over here was this sugar free gimmick. Example, sugar free. Misinformation, right? So these are certain things that we have. Next is certain initiatives. Government has national program for the prevention and control of cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases and stroke. Then we have state cancer institutes and tertiary care centers. We also have affordable medicines and reliable implants for the treatment, again by Government of India. Then Jan Aushadhi stores in order to provide affordable medicines to the people who are suffering from the various issues, which are again generic medicines which are cheaper. Let's move ahead with the topic. Again, this is the same thing in simple words mentioned. Let's move ahead. Next, topic 3, Center Clear Scheme for development of 40 tourist designations across 23 states at a cost of 3295 crores. Clear? Now, please see here. This is again by the Government of India. Now, let us see what is it saying. Recently, the center has approved interest-free loan interest-free loan worth 30 to 95 crores to states for 40 new projects identified across 23 states for the development of tourism sites and infrastructure. Under which program? Under the Special Assistance to States for Capital Investment, SASCI. Now, please understand, before we go on to the topic of tourism, we should understand what this particular thing is, right? See here. SASCI scheme is a special assistance to states for capital investment. Please understand, the loan that is being provided in a means to boost infrastructure is basically under this scheme. Now, what is this scheme? Please understand, it was launched in 2021 in response to the economic challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, objective is to provide 50-year interest-free loan to states, enabling them to undertake critical capital investment. It continued in subsequent years under the current name. So that means we know that this scheme started because of the COVID-19 problems that were created across the states and across in the country. So government launched this scheme, but this scheme is again continuing in order to aid the states through various means now, right? So under this scheme, we realize this amount has been approved as an interest-free loan for boosting tourism in those regions. Firstly, again, to boost tourism interest-free loan under what? This particular scheme. So what is this scheme? This is this special assistance for states for investment, capital investment. This is the scheme. Now coming back to the aspect of what is the provisions, major aspects, right? So aspects about the development of iconic tourist centers to a global scale. What is this? First is, the loan will be provided to the states for a period of 50 years and will be interest-free. So they don't have to pay any interest, right? The state governments are responsible for providing land for the projects, implementing them, and managing the operations after completion. So it is a way that money is being provided. It is the states who have to provide the land. It is they who have to basically implement the project. It is they themselves who have to manage the operations. The central government is providing them with an interest-free loan. Now, all projects must be completed within a time frame of 2 years. This is very, very important because they don't want the money to be misused. That is why. The state governments is solely responsible for the project operations, maintenance, and through public-private partnership. That means, please remember, in order to develop a particular project, they are basically aiming at that the state governments along with private entities can get involved and basically work towards, let us say, rejuvenation of tourism, or let us say developing any particular site, any historical site, or any tourist destination for, let us say, recreational purposes also, which can basically increase the economic dimensions or, let us say, raise revenue for the state government as such. So that is why, again, this is a major dimension. Now let us move ahead. Fund distribution. The Department of Expenditure will release 66% of the fund as a first installment directly to the states, right? Directly to the states, Department of Expenditure. Nodal ministry is Ministry of Tourism. States can submit multiple projects with a maximum funding of 100 crores per project. That means 100 crores per project is the funding. Project identification. These projects include lesser known tourist designation like Bateshwar in Uttar Pradesh, Ponda in Goa, Gandikota in Andhra Pradesh, Porbandar in Gujarat. So what is going on is that, okay, the sites which are already there very famous, the states are already working on it, fine. But the other ones which can be basically reaped because of their some historic, certain beauty or aesthetics purposes should be the core idea. So that diversification on the tourist sites is again an aim under this particular program. Now, this is the distribution, this is the project identification. Now, if I see the tourism sector in India, let us see. Why so much contribution or work is being done with respect to tourism? Please understand. India's tourism sector is a major industry that contributes a lot to the GDP. If you see from that perspective, close to 9% of the GDP contribution is done by the tourism sector, and that is a huge number, and a lot of scope is there with respect to this. Now, if we see the growth and status, tourism sector has rapidly grown in the past 2 decades. In 2023, India recorded 9.24 million foreign tourists in India and 43.5% increase from 2022. So that's a massive increase. If you see the World Travel and Tourism Council, WTTC, projects that India travels and tourism sector will contribute almost rupees 21.15 trillion to the economy in 2024, which again we see at the end of the year, the statistics will be clear. India is ranked 39th among the 119 countries with respect to the favorable tourist destinations. Again, a lot of improvement can be there, which we are seeing over here. Next, we move ahead, we realize that growth in the foreign tourist, again 43.5% growth. And if we see with respect to growth in the domestic tourist also, domestic tourism had a remarkable growth where 2509.63 million domestic tourist visits being there to various places. Now, this is a huge number. That means not only the foreign tourist, but domestic tourism itself is basically leading the tourism sector in India. A very important dimension that we see here. Let's move ahead. Government initiatives to promote tourism. We have the Swadesh Darshan Scheme 2014, which is aimed at developing theme-based tourist circuits across the country in order to boost the tourism. Next is Prasad Scheme, Pilgrimage Rejuvenation and Spiritual Heritage Augmentation Drive Scheme, which is again focusing on the development and beautification of the pilgrimage sites. Again, religious tourism in India occupies a very important position because of the diversity of religion that we have in India. Next is Paryatan Parv to 2015, a nationwide campaign basically aiming at domestic tourism by organizing various cultural festivals, events, fairs in order for the states and regions to basically show their rich culture and attract tourists from the various other states along with the foreign countries also. 𝐑𝐄𝐂 Apna Desh Initiative 2015, an initiative that encourages domestic tourism by promoting exploration of the India's diverse landscape and the cultural heritage of the India. Another Ek Bharat Shresht Bharat. It is basically aiming at cultural exchanges and integration between the different states, basically aiming at uniting India as a one cultural umbrella term, along with the diversity that is existing, a perfect blend of the unity and diversity that we see in India. E-visa, the government is basically making it easier for the foreign countries who are favorable nations also to come or have e-visas by the process of streamlining the visa aspect. When we have the Dharamshala Declaration 2022, it outlines India's plan to revitalize tourism post-pandemic, aiming at $150 billion GDP contribution, a 30 billion in the foreign exchange earnings. So what we are currently doing is, we have a massive aim over here, which we are trying to achieve. And this can be possible if we have the infrastructure development, if we have the favorable aspect from the side of the people itself, because congenial and a safe environment is also required. Streamlining of the tourism along with the various schemes that are being there. Again, these things can basically help us to achieve that particular goal. So let's move ahead. Challenges. What are the challenges right now? Infrastructure and connectivity. You'll be realizing that Northeast region, again, though, has a lot of connectivity now, expressways being built, but again, if we see, there is lack of basic infrastructure also there. Now, safety and hygiene. We have seen cases of rape in Delhi. We have seen cases of foreign tourists being raped in Goa. That again creates a negative image in the mind of the people. Next, unutilized heritage. We realize that various places like Khajuraho, Hampi, various places in Jaipur, Agra, those are places, only few sites have been emphasized, but the other sites are also there, which a lot of scope is there. So those other sites also should be basically used, popularized, and that is why the scheme, that is interest-free loan, is being provided to reap the benefit of those particular regions. Seasonal tourism. Popular destination like Shimla, Manali experience overcrowding the peak season that basically lead to lack of basic facilities over there. And along with it, it leads to issue of people who are already staying there facing a lot of problems and even disputes and problems arising because of that. So that is also creating a lot of issues. Skilled workforce. We realize that skilled guides, skilled managers with respect to these tourism industry is still lacking. When we talk about hotel management, we talk about those people generally employed in those 5-star hotels, good hotels, but also we need people who are dedicated with respect to these guiding the people also, provided they are paid well. We need a workforce with respect to those proper guides or tourist planners also is very, very important over here. Let's move ahead. Now comes the prelims topics. Topic 4. This was a photograph that was placed in your today's newspaper, and it mentions about the Border Road Organization cleaning the Zojila Pass in the Kargil district. We realized that it has started Again, the snowfall has started again. So the problem again would be clearing the roads. But what is important here is the topic of border road organization, BRO. See, these small things can be asked in your papers in the preliminary examination. Just have a look at this. If you see over here, the full form of BRO is Border Road Organization. It was established on 7th May 1960 under Ministry of Defense. Please note, it is not under the Ministry of Urban Development or Highways. It is under Ministry of Defense. Responsibility, construction and maintenance of roads and infrastructure along the Indian border areas. Motto is Shramena Sarva Sandhyam, which means everything is achievable through hard work. Because see, border regions are very critical with respect to India's defense and strategic purposes. So the responsibility for maintaining those roads is basically lies with the Ministry of Defense. Over there, one wing of Ministry of Defense is with respect to construction and maintenance of the roads, and that is Border Road Organization, which was established in 1960. Now, let us see certain dimensions. Mission of Border Road Organization. It basically aims at enhancing the connectivity. Please understand. It aims at all year round connectivity. The reason behind it is that defense issues are very critical to the nation. And over there, that is why reaching to the distant regions for the army also, and let us say for the other time, even the tourists and other people are also traveling for that purpose also. But majorly, we know that these are critical with respect to security and strategy purposes. That is why enhancing the connectivity is also one of the major aims. Supporting national security, again, connectivity and national security, because if we cannot defend our borders, then it will be of no use. That is why security concerns also, we need proper connectivity. Please see, it is easier to land or let us say drop the troops from the aircrafts also, but large number of machinery that have to go are through road, have to go through road, and that is why we realize that proper connectivity, wide roads are very important for the for the security. That is why these are known as arteries of growth and development. Next, promoting socio-economic development. Through these regions, please realize that a lot of tourists would be coming also. If you go to regions of Leh Ladakh also, again, border road organizations are there, developing the roads. Along with it, it will basically help in the prosperous nature. Let us say if tourism is developing, possible constructions of some sites would be take place. Economic benefit will come. People who are staying there, they will also benefit through, let us say, small shops or businesses that they have there. So automatically, a socio-economic development will take place. Enhancing national integration. Yes, because see, earlier, let us go to 20, 30 years back, it was very difficult to go to northeastern region. Today, if you see expressways, six lane expressways are there. People from northeast are coming to the other parts. We people are going to the northeastern region, Jammu Kashmir, other parts. Why? Because the infrastructure is there. That is why, again, unity and integration of India. Enabling disaster response. If some problems occur, it is not always feasible to just pick up people through helicopters and the aircrafts. For that, you need to have the road transport also in case of a disaster that takes place. So that is why also in disaster response also, the BRO plays a very, very important role. Supporting the defense forces, again, the movement of troops, paramilitary forces are going to take place through that. So it is again supporting an allied framework for the defense forces. Okay. Now, seventh, fostering regional development. Yes, as we have discussed, but if you're developing any region through, let us say, roads, infrastructure, those development takes place across those arteries, the region across near to those border roads. You will be realizing that developed by BRO, you see certain shops, certain people who are staying there who are basically indulgent, let us say, small farming activities, might be selling their products for the tourists who come there. Again, along with it, certain facilities, some Airbnb type structure, some hostel type structure will be developed over there. That will basically lead to what? That will basically lead to the regional development. Again, national security, preparedness is again a same important dimension. Next is national building, nation building again. Nation building is another dimension because nation building involves infrastructure. Infrastructure has a major aspect, a support framework to the roads, and in that border roads become very important, right? So this is again the mission. Let's move ahead. Topic 5, Mahakumbh. See, we have the Mahakumbh in 2025. So let us understand something. It is written over here. When I talk about Kumbh, it basically means a pot. When we talk about Kumbh, we realize that during the Kumbh Melas, see, Kumbh is a generic word. When I talk about Ardh you'll be realizing after 6 years. Mahakumbh is big because it occurs after every 12 years. Now, this time it is happening in Prayagraj, right? And that is why UP government is getting prepared for the large scale people or deities who are going to come. It basically involves the ritual bathing. Now, how it has come, please understand. See, the Mahakumbh Mela is a Hindu pilgrimage of the faith of massive level while bathing in the holy rivers. They bathe in the holy rivers. It is believed that taking dip in these holy rivers will cleanse their sins. That means if you're bathing in those holy rivers, your sins would be cleaned and you will be in the right path to attain the moksha. Moksha means over here, you are out of the cycle of again rebirth and birth. That means you as a human being is composed of flesh and atma, and that atma joins the Paramatma again and you're not reborn again. That is known as moksha in the Hindu philosophy. That is why it is believed that taking bathing during this Mahakumbh in the holy rivers basically helps you to attain moksha. And because it erases your sins, that is why it becomes easier for you to attain moksha. Now the term Kumbh basically means pot, which symbolizes the pot of immortality, that is Amrit Patra. That means if you realize in the Hindu mythology also, you would be seeing that this is very often comes with respect to Amrit Manthan that took place. With respect to that, the pot is basically again denoting the aspect of part of immortality. Now, if you see, Mahakumbh is different from the other kumbhs because it is of a larger scale and takes place after 12 years. Now, see, historically, the origin of Mahakumbh is traced back to the Purans. The events tell that a link to the mythological story of Samudra Manthan by the mud gods and demons. At the end of the Samudra Manthan, the demigod Dhanvantri, the first doctor, and it is after his name that you have the concept of even Dhanteras, right? Dhanvantri, the first doctor of the world, appeared out from the ocean while holding a pot of Amrit. It is believed that a few drops of the Amrit fell at 4 locations. That 4 locations are Prayagraj, Haridwar, Ujjain, and Nasik. And these are the places where the Kumbh Melas basically take place. And this time the Mahakumbh is happening at Prayagraj. Yeah. Historical background again over here. Prayagraj in particular holds a unique place in the mythology because of the intersection of the Sangam of the 3 rivers. So that is why basically it is very important from the perspective of Hindus' religious belief system. And again, large number of deities are going to come. Now this large number of deities coming is basically is very important from the significance that it is going to have. How? See, spiritual importance. Basically, we realize that you are trying to remember those cultural aspects, the historical aspects, the religious aspects. So that is why we realize that providing opportunity for the devotees to purify their souls, rituals like Peshawai, that means a grand procession of the saints, Shahi Snan, again tell you the culture of India. Very important. Cultural display, Mahakumbh provides platform to showcase the India's cultural diversity that is existing and that has been continuing from centuries and centuries. Economic impact, this will lead to large tourists coming from every sort of socio-economic aspect. So tourists coming there will basically lead to lot of economic exchanges, economic boost to the regional aspect. Political and social dynamics, often insights to the social sector. Over here, we'll realize that aspects of crowd management, law enforcement, and sanitation will become important and how those are managed. Again, this can be a means to showcase the expertise in India with respect to such large-scale crowd management, which are basically taught even in the Harvard universities. Now, let's move to the other aspect, dark web, topic number 6. See, when I talk about web, please understand, a hidden part of the internet that requires special tools like Tor to access them is known as by providing anonymity. Now, please understand, it will appear very jargonful. When you talk about internet, please understand, or web, you generally access sites like, let us say, Google, Yahoo, and so on and so forth. Those are the sites which are basically accessible by you. And that is hardly 5% of the total web space. Other than that, there are various dimensions which you are not aware of. Let us see the diagram. We'll come back here again. See, 4 to 5%. This is 95 to 96%. These websites which you come across, Instagram, Google, Reddit, CNN, Bing, and all, these are surface web which is clear, which is easily visible to you. Below that are those things which are not easily accessible to you. Now, out of that is one is deep web. Now, deep web are those things which you cannot easily access. Let us say government records, scientific records, academic information, financial records, medical records, legal documents. This is known as deep web. Deep web is not illegal something. It is basically those secret documents which people might have or keep, which are not accessible by other people. Like, for example, DigiLocker. Now, DigiLocker is something that you can access or the government can access, right, for authentication purposes, but not that everybody can access. Google can be accessed by everybody, but not your medical records. Government Aadhaar data is not something that everybody can access. For that means that if I have a record, now government cannot sell Aadhaar data to everybody because it is important, critical. That is why those informations come under the deep web. It is not illegal. Now comes the aspect of dark web. This is where the problem is lying. Dark web is those special sites which basically over there you can even buy missiles also, illegal trafficking also. Those are those sites which require special type of browsers which where you can buy or sell almost anything. And along with it, it is very difficult to trace that. And along with it, it is a major component which is basically involved in, let us say, drugs trafficking, criminal activities, and something that is not easily traceable also because it uses special browsers or search engines like Tor browsers and all. So that is why, please understand, this dark web is a point of lot of concern. Now, this can be of benefit also because it provides an autonomy. Let us say government uses it for its own secret agencies purpose, that is positive use. But majorly it is being used by, let us say, the criminals, organized criminals, terrorist people in order to give contracts. So you might be seeing that there are browsers where, let us say, organized killing people give contract. You do not know the identity. You just make the payments through cryptocurrencies and all. Those are basically over here. Selling of people also, trafficking of people also takes place here. Selling of arms also takes place over here. This is not easily traceable because it has special browsers. That is why a hidden part of the internet that requires special tools like Tor browser search engines, which to access and known for providing anonymity. That means you cannot trace it. Even our special agencies cannot trace or easily access that. It is for your specific purpose. If you want to, you can. Very difficult because it has very high level of security. It has very different set of workspace environment. Now see, if I talk about the benefit, see, access free academic research, use free ad free search engines, access geo-blocked content, secure cryptocurrency wallets, use social media without any monitoring, find niche content that is very specific to some people, not accessible, anonymous chat boards. These are positive. This can be used for in order to, let us say, prevent Google or let us say even the government tracing you. But the problem that arises is the negative aspect of these dark webs. Computer crimes, cracking, file corruption, problems. See, these are the issues. File sharing, sale of restricted goods and darknet, purchase and sale of illicit drugs, circumventing network censorship content. While dark web promises privacy to its users, but also realize that private photos, pornography videos, child pornographic video, all these are sold and bought over here. That is why, again, it is not easily traceable. When you see that child pornography is banned in India, yes, it is banned. But you realize it is easily accessible in these places. Freely, you can buy them, sell them. That is why if you realize if you're cleaning the internet, the surface web, it doesn't mean that you have basically cleaned the whole space. This is just the 4% which you have cleaned. This is a problematic thing. This is something that we are not even able to touch. Even contracts to kill people are given during these dark webs. That means there are a lot of organized criminals where you're told to give a target that this person has to be eliminated over there, then post the work, some amount is given, before that some amount is given. Now these are the things through a scale which we see that dark web works. That is why it is a point of concern. Now comes 40 years of Bhopal gas tragedy, topic number 7. Please see. If I talk about Bhopal gas tragedy, it was very unfortunate that took place on the 3rd of December 1984 in a Union Carbide India plant, which was basically producing methyl isocyanate. Now, You would have seen that in the movie also, Bhopal Gas Strategy, a web series had come. Over there, see, a lot of loopholes were there with respect to the plants because the gas that was being produced was very uh, toxic and carcinogenic and deadly for that matter. And proper precautions were not taken because proper precaution would involve a lot of investment being made by the company. And that is why what happened that when the leak took place, it created a havoc. Large number, thousands and thousands died. And even after that, we realized that the children who were born after that had various problems and disorders that were associated with that. So the gas drifted from densely populated neighborhood plant, killing thousands of people immediately and creating panic. Final death toll was estimated to be about 15,000 to 20,000 people died. Half of the million people suffered from respiratory problems, eye irritation, muscular dystrophy. And study revealed that congenital malformations took place which for the children who were born. That means some structural and functional problems that arose for the children who were born after that. Right? Now, government's response to the Bhopal Gas strategy, government passed the Bhopal Gas Leak Act 1985, allowed it to have legal representatives for the victims. Then a compensation for 1 lakh to 3 lakhs was given. Then again, in addition, a fully or partially disabled, you realize that 50,000 to 5 lakh, and based on the injuries, compensation again. But you realize that the people who were concerned were never convicted. And the people even now suffer, are, though that generation is still crippled. That is what the issue is. Now, one thing that we need to know is what methyl isocyanate. This can be asked in your examinations also. Methyl isocyanate, MIC, is a colorless, highly flammable liquid that evaporates quickly when exposed to the air, and it has sharp and strong odor. Now, it is used in the production of pesticides, polyurethane foam, and plastics, important from the perspective of the commercial purpose. It is highly reactive to heat. When exposed to water, the compounds in the MIC basically cause a lot of heat, and that is why a lot of burning, and along with it, a lot of other issues. Immediate health effect includes ulcers, photophobia, respiratory issues, anorexia, persistent abdominal pain, genetic disorders, and so on and so forth, visual and even hearing issues. Long-term effects can include chronic conjunctivitis, decreased lung functioning, again memory loss, pregnancy loss, for the children being born having congenital malformations also. These are the issues which have been faced by the people, right? Let's move ahead. MCQs. Question number 1. Read the question. Answer. Answer is B. Question 2 with the options. Answer is A. Question 3. Options. Answer is D. Question 4 with options. Answer is D. Question 5 with options. Answer is C. So this was the current affairs analysis from my side. Take care, God bless, and keep on understanding. If you have any issues, do let us know. We will keep on building and make it more relevant, because what is required is being done over here from what the aspect of civil services. So God bless you, take care, and Jai Hind.